Van harte welkom allemaal. Het is fantastisch dat u er vandaag met zo ontzettend veel mensen bent gekomen. Heel erg fijn dat u er bent vandaag en dat u zich niet heeft laten afschrikken door beveiligingsmaatregelen en onze strenge mails daarover of wat dan ook. Ik zie ook hier heel veel nieuwe gezichten, dus ik ga toch maar even kort vertellen wat we doen hier altijd. We hebben zometeen eerst de Machiavelli lezing. En daarna hebben we de prijsuitreiking. En na de prijsuitreiking bent u allen van harte welkom voor de borrel in de provinciezaal hiernaast. Ga ik u straks gewoon nog een keertje voor uitnodigen. Today it's going to be a bilingual meeting. We are very honored that the ambassador of the United States of America, Mr. Pete Hoekstra, has been willing to hold the Machiavelli lecture this year. He has given us a very intriguing title, The Threat of a Lost Generation. So everybody has been wondering for weeks, am I part of this generation or not? Who are you talking about? So please enlighten us in a few minutes. But we are very honored to have you today here with your staff and with your wife Diane. And well, after your lecture, we have some room for some questions from the public. I will ask you if there are any questions, and if you have some, please post them to the ambassador. We have about 5 to 10 minutes for that. And then we have the award ceremony, and that part is going to be in Dutch again. So it's a bit, language-wise, it's a bit adventurous today. Well, like I said, we have found Mr. Pete Hoekstra, Mr. Ambassador of the United States. We have found him very willing to hold the yearly Machiavelli lecture. And we are very honored to have you here. And I'm ready to give you the floor.
Thank you. Thank you for inviting me to be a part of this evening in this group. It's an honor for Diane and I to be here. Diane and I thoroughly enjoy living and being as part of the Netherlands and representing the United States of America here. America is our home, but we feel very comfortable here. It's a special place for me. It is my birthplace. So it is exciting for us to be here and to be part of this. You know, you think we visited here often and you think you know a lot about the Netherlands, but I've learned some things. In many ways, the Dutch and the Americans, we think we know each other and we understand each other, but it never ceases to amaze me how little we do know about each other and how much we still have to learn. And so I've become more cautious, and I encourage my Dutch colleagues that I interface with that maybe we should all be a little bit more cautious about how we judge each other, because we still come at the issues. We have a common language, we have a common background, but we live very, very differently. I've also had fun. I've not skated. I'm waiting to skate. But I've cycled the Elfstedentocht op de fiets, op Tweede Pinksterdag. I'm learning schaatsen met de lange schaatsen. And if there's anybody that can be of help, I'm trying to learn the been over been. And so I was just with Minister Ollengren, and I understand she is a fantastic skater. So I've asked her that we should schedule a date, and maybe she is the one that can finally get me over the hump so that I can actually do been over been. I've loved learning Dutch idioms. Hoge bomen vangen veel wind. Dweilen met de kraan open. But my favorite is lange tenen. When I tell the Dutch they are easily offended, they are offended. When I say they have lange tenen, they fully understand what I mean, and they are fine. Tonight is a little bit unusual for me. For the lecture tonight, I was given very strict instructions. I had to provide a title, I needed to provide a written copy of my speech. I had to do that last week, so I had to have it ready a week in advance. And third, I had to make it a lecture, which we as Americans think that means I maybe had to provide some substance. For those of you who've heard me speak in the past, you might say, fail success dame. He usually doesn't speak with notes. He's never had a title. And there are probably some of my Dutch friends who've said, and he's never provided us with any substance. But we're going to try to we're going to try to address that tonight. First two requirements have already been met. You have a title, I have a speech, and now we will see whether there's anything out there that is worth listening to. Why the threat of a lost generation? As a person of faith, as a parent, as a government leader, an intriguing communications issue presents itself. How effective have my communications been to prepare my kids, the public, and others for the future? Because of everything that I do, of everything that we all do, there's nothing more important than handing off of the baton, as we do in a relay race, to the next generation, whether it's our kids or to future voters and future citizens. Have they been provided with the tools, the knowledge, and the values to be successful? That's a real communications opportunity, and it's a real challenge. It's one that societies can't afford to lose, because if we don't hand off the baton, we are at risk of losing our society, our culture, and our identity. It's not a new issue. It's been around for thousands of years. In the Bible, we're told of the people of Israel who serving the Lord in the days of Joshua. It goes on to tell of how after Joshua's death, another generation arose who did not know the Lord nor the work he had done for Israel. You can guess the conclusion to this story. Many of you probably know it. The children of Israel then did evil in the sight of the Lord. Things didn't go well for Israel. Israel experienced a loss of its values, culture. Results were devastating in a lost generation. More recently in our country, George Washington, America's first president, when he left the presidency, he wrote a farewell address to the country. Washington used the majority of the letter to offer advice to what he called a parting friend on what he believed were the greatest threats to the nation. I bring this up tonight not because of exactly the instructions that he gave us 200 years ago, but because of the fact that he felt it was important to share his guidance, his understanding with the country, to share it with the next generation, to help preserve and to help build America, what he had started. When I joined Congress in 1993, I met Newt Gingrich. I became familiar with a class that he was teaching. I actually taught it myself at a local college. It's called Renewing American Civilization. In his opening lecture, he puts down the predicate for the class. I really believe the country is at stake, not in a Republican-Democrat sense, but in an historic sense, in that civilizations die, and that every generation has to arouse some people who try to make sure that they understand what it takes to make sure that a civilization and a country does not die. I'd suggest that today, both in America and in the Netherlands, Americans and Dutch are questioning whether we've done enough to protect, defend, and prepare the next generation to confront the changes and challenges that are present today. I can give you a long list of what Americans say, but I thought it'd be more interesting, and it was more interesting for me to listen to what the Dutch have to say. Rob de Wijk wrote in his first commentary of 2019 that the solution starts with the recognition that our civilization is worth protecting. I believe that he might be implying that it might be at risk. Another well-known Dutchman recently said, "The Netherlands is like a fragile..." Anybody can help? It's like a fragile vase. I've heard that if it's worth more than 25 euros, it's a vase. If it's less than 25 euros, it's a vase. That the Dutch must come together to hold. The King's Commissioner of South Holland, Jaap Smit, referenced the vase in his New Year's address, but also an old-fashioned stone pottery hot water bottle that continues to soak up water until it cracks. Geert Wilders states, "Our way of life, our culture, our national security are at stake and heavily under attack." Siebrand Buma has spoken with me about his concerns regarding the threat to the national social contract. Terry Baudet refers to, and my spell check does not recognize this word, but it is in the dictionary, okiophobia. Here in the Netherlands, the feeling that one needs to denigrate the customs, culture, and institutions that are identifiably ours, basically saying that the culture faces a threat from within. Lodewijk Asscher tells a story about a young man on Herdenkingsdag who stops his bike, removes his hat, although he doesn't know anyone is watching. He does this to commemorate together while still alone. Asscher says it is important for society to reflect on what we share together as an optimistic antidote to thinking about doom. Had a great meeting with the mayor, Mayor Vinen. I listened to his story. The fact that this organization here tonight feels compelled to honor mayors is evidence that there's something wrong, that there's something we should be concerned about. Mayor Vinen is protecting something very valuable in Dutch society, as are, I'm sure, these other mayors, and I don't know their specific stories. But he's protecting the safety and security of his citizens in his community by standing up for something very, very basic, the rule of law. Bottom line, protecting our society, culture is something that we collectively need to be concerned about. The question is, are our societies, America's and the Dutch, at risk and danger of breaking? And if we do we lose something? And dare I say, in the Netherlands, do we dare say that we might be losing something exceptional? The United States and the Netherlands, we are proud people. We've always been proud of our country's achievements. I think that we believe that what we have is something that is special, that is worth protecting, and that is at risk. But what does it mean? What are the common things that we share and value in our society? I think the great thing is, we don't have to pull them apart and say, this is what's special in the Netherlands, and this is what's special in the United States, and there may be some overlap. We can go back 400 years. When we look at the Plakkaat van Verlatingen, that was a tough one, okay? And the U.S. Declaration of Independence. Some would go as far to say that the Plakkaat, whatever, okay? Your Declaration of Independence from July 26. And the problem here is Dutch is my first language. English is my second language. But that your Declaration of Independence from 1581 was the inspiration for our declaration in 1776. William of Orange established two of the groundbreaking ideas that guided the Plakkaat. Think about it. The populace is not to serve the king. The king exists to serve the people. Very much the same philosophy of George Washington. And with regard to religion, the king cannot reign over an individual's conscience, establishing the concept of religious freedom. Both of our documents articulate a justification for a citizenry to revolt against a harsh royalty. Both documents led to the creation of a new nation where rulers would be accountable to the governed. Both documents contributed to the development of societies and cultures that emphasized acceptance and tolerance. The Dutch helped establish a respect for different cultures and religions in a new country, our country. Other contributions from the Dutch included respect for personal liberty, individualism, equality, and civil society. These are all part of the legacy that the Dutch left in America through New Amsterdam and the other investments that you made in our country. Think about it. The legacies that we share. Leaders accountable to the governed, tolerance, religious freedom, personal liberty, equality, free markets, individualism, safety and security, rule of law, civil society. These are the values that we celebrate and the values that we share. They form the foundation that has enabled both our countries to be prosperous, free, and successful. They are part of our respective national identities. This is what is worth defending. Then we must ask ourselves, why do citizens see some or much of that at risk? Is it the dramatic pace of change, the unprecedented boom of technology and connectivity, globalization, diminishing national identity, legal and illegal migration, geopolitical shifts, decreasing religiosity, changes in climate? We may all have our own answer as to why we think our societies may be at risk. But the condition that we all face is that today there's more change going on across a broader landscape than at any other time in human history. And there's an uncertainty about whether our societies, and maybe whether we even as individuals, are capable of coping with it. I think it's a legitimate and important question. So what's the response? I had a friend of mine here a couple of months ago, Frank Luntz. He's a pollster, and he spoke to a lot of your young people about the 2018 elections. He's a pollster. What do pollsters do? He loves to ask questions. So he was asking your young students whether they thought their values would be more aligned with the United States, and I would say more aligned with Dutch values, or with China 25 years from now. To my surprise, around half the students thought that their values might be more closely aligned with China's. If that's accurate, and if that's how they really feel, that's frightening to me, because the values are very, very different. As I stated, our shared values are the cornerstones of our relationship and of who we are and what we've done. Look at how, on a values-based system, we responded to the horrors and the challenges of World War II. In the post-war period, the United States and Europe experienced a period of unprecedented growth, followed by technological advances that moved at a pace never seen before. Decisions made at that time, such as the Marshall Plan, the formation of NATO, and others, helped to create more than 7 decades of peace and prosperity because of the values that we shared and how we took those values and shaped the direction and what we would do together. Where do we move to in the future? Do people really believe that their values will align more closely with China or someone else's than ours? Are they ready to leave the shared Dutch and American values? Do they understand what we have? Do they understand what they might lose? How will that attitude, and how would a shared values attitude affect the key decisions that we need to make as we move forward, as we deal with the challenge of change? I think, so let's get into some of the content. How will the Netherlands and the U.S., using their shared values, shape foreign and public policy? I'll give you one example. Who in the world would be a better country to co-host the Global Entrepreneurial Summit with the United States than the Netherlands. It was an easy choice. Entrepreneurship is in both of our blood. It's who we are. So in June, we'll demonstrate our country's broad and enduring partnership, our shared commitment to free markets, free enterprise, individual innovation, initiative, and risk-taking. That's who we are. We've agreed to gather emerging entrepreneurs and innovators from around the world to focus on global challenges in water, energy, health, connectivity, and food. 5 key global challenges that we continue to face. Technology, cyber technology, connectivity. Some may think that all this talk about telecom and 5G is just about doing technology a little bit quicker. But it's a whole lot more than that. It's going to be the framework for the mass connectivity evolution and multiple new technology. Whoever controls 5G will determine who will dominate new technologies across multiple industries for the next 50 to 100 years. Who do we want to have control of that? Is that something that we believe the United States and Europe should control? Because we advocate for secure networks, secure supply chains that are free from foreign government control and undue influence. This is about ensuring economic freedom for entrepreneurs to innovate and create, as well as about ensuring our national security. This is why it's so important for the West, for Europe and the United States together to lead on issues like 5G. Trade. The United States and Europe, we've worked to build the largest economic relationship in the world, accounting for over $1 trillion in bilateral trade and 15 million jobs. Together, we account for almost 50% of global GDP. Where do we go in the future? With our shared values of open markets, protection of intellectual property, we need more open and more fair trade to continue the success that we've had. Trade has benefited all of us for decades. It's part of our shared heritage, and it needs to be part of our shared futures. But we don't agree on everything at this point. We built the strongest military alliance in the world, ensuring peace and prosperity in Europe for 70 years. The U.S. continues to faithfully support NATO, yet our commitment is being questioned. I ask, who seems more committed to an organization, the member paying their full dues and more, or the ones that have yet to meet their self-designated commitments? The Dutch have determined that the people here are best served by an energy transition. It's a commitment to its people, and it's a commitment to cleaning up the environment. It leads to tough choices. You're taking some major steps in this area. One possible solution is Nord Stream 2. For us, Nord Stream 2 is both an economic and a national security issue. The United States strongly opposes providing Russia with another tool to use leverage and influence throughout Europe. Does the Netherlands want to provide Russia with a powerful new capability to control European energy supplies and potentially undermine the West and undermine our value system? Or will the Netherlands use its leverage to influence a change in Russian behavior? The nice thing is the areas of disagreement are areas of where we can work and continue dialogue is relatively short, because we can go back to areas of alignment, trade with China. Europe and America need to ensure that our businesses have the same opportunities to compete in China that Chinese businesses have to compete in our economies. We want our companies to be able to sell in China without risk to their intellectual property. We need to use our shared values to shape a new and equitable trade relationship with China, and we need to do it together. Finally, one last example, and perhaps one of the most important, where we can stand and have stood together, shoulder to shoulder for a long time, and we continue to do it, and I think we're going to do it in Venezuela as we speak. We were in the White House yesterday with Minister Ollengren, and we have a lot more in common in Venezuela, and hopefully we can, again, exercise our shared position on human rights. Both the Netherlands and the United States have a rich history of leading the way in regards to human rights. The U.S. foreign policy is rooted in the understanding that governments that respect individual rights and fundamental freedoms remain the best vehicles for prosperity, stability, and peace. Yes, our shared values are worth defending and they're worth passing on. Our countries, and we are proud, have been a strong force for good in the world. Imperfect? Yes, we know that. But they offer the best hope for the future. We need to build on the successful foundations that have been laid during the last 7 decades in Europe, during the last 200 years in America, and the 400 plus years for the Netherlands. If we continue to practice our core values, we will be prepared to effectively respond to the changes in today's world and to ensure another 100 years of peace and prosperity. We will not lose a generation. This is the best answer for our countries, for our future. Should we be optimistic or pessimistic as to whether our values will come through? There's plenty of evidence to be concerned, but there, I believe, are more reasons to be optimistic. Mayor Weiner can explain to you what a Haarlemse muggen is. Okay, I have no idea, even though he tried to explain it to me, but he has a sign in his office that says, Haarlemse muggen staan achter onze burgemeester. Okay, fantastic, I think, all right? But he received it from his constituents. They've made their values known to the mayor and to the community loud and clear. They're supporting the guy, upholding their values against the threat of lawlessness. You don't always see that. Things like that make me optimistic. Despite much of the concern and stress in today's world, there's an underlying resilience and strength in our society because of the values that we have that has always enabled us to cross through difficult times and do it successfully. And I believe we can do it again. Our societies may look fragile. They are in our hands. We must carry them through times that are dynamic and even turbulent. Each generation has a responsibility to reflect, evaluate, and evolve our fundamental values and to pass them on. We do that best by defending them and practicing them each and every day, just like these mayors have done. Communicating to our citizens, both young and old, is the best done by demonstrating and teaching. We have to be intentional about making that happen to ensure that we don't lose a generation and we don't lose our societies, that we do not lose our identities. So as we deal with the current challenges and opportunities we face, our focus should be on taking something that, yes, it's Americans talking, that is exceptional. And if the Dutch won't say you're exceptional, I'll say you're exceptional, and you are there with us. Remember, we are one, you are two. So we are there, right there together. We need to take something that is exceptional, continuously work to improve it. Let's communicate confidently to our citizens and to the rest of the world that our shared values, when applied even imperfectly, are still exceptional and are the best hope for the future. Yes, America and the Netherlands are works in progress. I'm proud of what we are and optimistic about what we will become. So thank you very much for allowing me to spend a little bit of time with you today.
Well,
still long, I'm sorry.
No, it's okay. Thank you very much, Mr. Ambassador, for this quite interesting, I think, and very challenging speech to us. And let me look at the public here. I can imagine there are some questions. If you want to stand up and state your name and your profession, then yeah, you first. And Mr. Ambassador, I think we need you by the microphone to answer. Yes. Please, no, just speak out loud, please.
My name is Erik Beyer. I'm director of the Johan van Barneveld Academie in Dutch. yesterday I visited with the climate youth, our minister president, Mark Rutte. And this young generation from 16, 17 years, they are very afraid that they get a lost generation because of the climate change, and that all they're going to learn in university will be lost because all the big stuff is coming from the climate change.
Yeah.
What can you offer in the United States?
What do you offer them?
Well, what I can offer from the United States is that we will continue to lead. We today produce about 38% of our energy with carbon neutral sources, whether it's hydro, whether it's nuclear, wind, and those types of things. We will continue to invest significantly in new technologies. And sure, there are concerns about Paris. But the bottom line is we're not going to be in an agreement that we believe is a bad agreement, and we're not going to be bound by that. But the United States, I am confident in 10 years will continue to be leading in these types of technologies. The bottom line for us, and like I said, the focus here, Paris defined whether you were or were not for climate, and it is the wrong benchmark. Okay, the Chinese came here and the Dutch embraced in some ways the Chinese because China is part of climate. Okay? If the Dutch are willing to give us the same deal that they gave to China, which is an awful deal for the planet, we'd probably take it. But China doesn't have to do, it's the dirtiest country in the world. It does not have to do anything until 2030. It does not pay into a climate change fund. It actually benefits from a climate change fund that the United States and the Netherlands pay into. That is just fundamentally wrong. But no, for the youth, we will have that dialogue with them, and we are fighting that same problem. And I think this is the area where we're waiting for the Dutch to catch up with us and then partner with us to go even further.
Okay. Thank you. Next question.
Mr. Ambassador, my name is Khaled Ahmed Chaudhry. Like you have two nationalities, one from the kicker launcher and the other the United States. I'm from Pakistan originally. It was a fantastic speech by you, not to make you happy, but just to tell you that it's a fact that we could listen some things from someone who is extremely concerned about, not about the present generation, but the future generations as well. I have a question to you, sir. Two atomic powers of South Asia, India and Pakistan, they are standing face to face because of the Kashmir conflict. 70 long years, Kashmir has been occupied by India. 100,000 Kashmiris have been so far killed. 800,000 Indian soldiers are free to raid.
Can you please state your question?
So my question to you is, isn't it possible for United States of America to play a role to solve and resolve the Kashmir issue, and besides that, to help and support Palestine and Israel to solve and resolve the issue?
Yes.
So that they can live together.
Well, there's another challenge.
I think the short answer is there a role for the United States to play? Yes. Is there a role for Europe to play and those types of things? Absolutely. But I could not tell you today what that role is. Okay.
Okay. Thank you. Another question.
Hi, my name is Atje Kuip and I'm a member of parliament of the Dutch Parliament. So very nice meeting you and thank you for your opening statement. We have to make sure that we don't have a lost generation. And I have a question for you. One of the biggest stress of our youth this day is the separation between people that have all the resources, the right people that they know, they're not growing up in poor families, and people that have all the resources, that have the abilities to go abroad, to study, to
Yeah. No, I think when you take a look at one of the reasons that I am so optimistic that when we take a look at what some see as challenges with technology and those things coming down the road, the values that we've outlined and that we've developed over 200 or 400 years. Number one are the values that enable us to address those challenges and use them for good, but they are also the values that create in the United States, and I think here as well, is still a basic education for each and every one of our kids. All right? Because if they do not have a quality education or access to quality education, they will not be able to take advantage of the changes or of the opportunities that are out there. In America, the American dream is still very much alive in that we see, and I don't know what the exact numbers are, but we see many people and many young people from what we might describe as being underprivileged communities leaving those communities and going up the socioeconomic ladder because we provided them with education, we provide them with a financial structure and incentives. In the United States, we believe that we will do that through markets and those types of things. We will not do it necessarily through government programs and mandates. But go ahead, you've got a follow-up. You hopped right back up. Go ahead.
One short question.
Yeah.
Because I think it's too easy, said.
Sure. Yeah.
Because education is not enough. Because
Yeah.
we see that in the Netherlands. We see that all our efforts are not providing all the young children with the right resources, with the right networks, and people they have to know to climb up those ladders.
Right.
So please take that into concern. It's a problem here, and I'm sure it's even a bigger problem in your country.
I'm sure it is. I think the issue that maybe is parallel to that is the growing disparity in income. Okay, that I think is an issue, and that is how in free societies, how do you manage that and create the equal opportunity for all of our people? And it's something, this is actually, it would be a great issue for the Dutch, Americans to talk together. Ivanka Trump has just announced, and she will lead a major initiative, not between lower economic scales and those types of things, but a global initiative on equal opportunity for women. And I believe that she may have had discussions in the past with the Queen on this, but the Queen will have to speak for herself unless there's someone in the room here who wants to speak for the Queen. But this is something that it will be an American initiative led by Ivanka. And we introduced the Global Entrepreneurial Summit to all of the ambassadors in The Hague a couple of weeks ago. And it was very interesting because we had the ambassador from Yemen, the ambassador from Sri Lanka say, typically an entrepreneurial summit, we wouldn't be included. How are you going to include us? It's kind of like, I don't know, but we're going to figure it out, and you will be.
Thank you. One more question, yes?
My name is Ketan Waling. I'm a historian at Leiden University, and coincidentally I'm writing a book on the link between the Declaration of Independence and Plakkaat van Verlating. So that's interesting.
Was I anywhere close?
Yes.
Oh, all right. Yeah.
Very much so, but I can tell you much more about it some other
Yeah.
time. The interesting thing is that while studying it, I realized immediately, going to the United States, to the National Archives, in D.C., to Philadelphia, the Constitution Center, that the Americans are very good at showing their founding documents and telling that story. And the Netherlands, I don't know if you've been to the National Archive here at the other side of Central Station in The Hague, there's some IKEA box where you can see the Plakkaat van Verlating in its original form. That's quite a difference. In what sense, Mr. Ambassador, would you think, if you support the connectedness in our histories, would the United States be able, or would you be able to improve or stimulate the Dutch government to finally do something with these founding documents and the shared history?
No, I mean, what is it? National, no, Institute of, what's our historical?
The Nationaal Archief?
What's that? Institute? No, but I'm talking about the U.S. What's ours? No, I know a library company. We have a whole agency that deals with this, but it's the archives and all of that. Again, this would be and we're losing part of this in the United States in our ability to transfer and to actually teach our kids about this history. But it's why I bring it up and brought it up here, because I think understanding where we've been and recognizing how far we've come, because those values were not thoroughly enshrined 400 years ago, 200 years ago. They evolved over a period of time, and they will continue to evolve over the future. But you got to know where you came from, and we would contact the embassy. We'd be more than willing to work with the Dutch and share with you how we try to do this and celebrate our founding documents and our founding values and what that means for the Dutch. And actually with the Plakat and the Declaration of Independence, there are things that we could do together.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. One last question here. The gentleman here.
Yeah.
Mr. Ambassador, my name is Jeroen Koedan. I work with the provincie Zuid-Holland. That's great. So I already told Jan Smit that you quoted his New Year's speech. And I think you will be pleased when he sends his regards.
Okay.
Question, please. Question, please.
He told us about your friend Bolster, and he asked our youngsters about the values, and whether they should be aligned with the US or with China. You also told us that he asked them 25 years from now. Would it be possible that at that moment in time we all have developed some sort of mutual values which are possibly reflected in the United Nations Millennium Development Goals already, so that it is not so much an opposition but a coalition of values?
Sure, it's possible. Okay, but I've met with some of your individuals, and it's great. There's across many of the Dutch political parties, there's general agreement on 5G. And that this is a technology that needs to be shared and driven by Europe, the Netherlands, and the U.S. Why? Because in China, it's being used in all of the wrong ways right now to surveil their population and create a surveillance state and to take freedom away. Does China have, if you're saying, does China have the room and the capacity to grow more like us in the next 25 years? Yes. Will they? I don't know. If you say, do we have the capacity to move more towards a surveillance state? The tools will exist to do that, but our core values will say, we will not let government do that to our people. And so I'm not interested in moving in that direction to get, consensus. Like I said, I am passionate, and I hope the Dutch are passionate, that what we have is unique, is exceptional, and is the best hope for the world. And it's not perfect, but I'm not willing for the sake of compromise to share our values and consensus to go to somewhere where it's not us, okay? I'm more than willing to work with the Dutch to educate countries that are more authoritarian, that have less freedom, so that they can become more free, more democratic, more rule of law, and those types of things, so that we can go to their countries and say, the Dutch did it for 400 years, and they're still doing it. America's done it for 200 years, and we're still doing it. You've now done it for 10 years, and we hope that you will someday be able to say that you've done it for 400 years too.
Well, thank you very much.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Ambassador, for your speech and for enlightening us with all your answers. I'm sure there are some more questions, but everybody is free to approach the ambassador during drinks after the ceremony. Nou, dat was het gedeelte in het Engels. Dan gaan we nu het Nederlandse gedeelte doen. En ja, dat begint met het voorlezen van het juryrapport. U heeft al, denk ik, meegekregen dat we dit jaar een beetje anders doen dan anders. En nou, dat zult u gedurende deze toekenning van de Machiavelli-prijs ook verder gaan merken. Er is een beeld uit 2018 dat schuurt. Zwaar bewapende politieagenten met mitrailleurs in de gemoedelijke provinciestad Haarlem. Rondom de bedreigde burgemeester Jos Wiene van Haarlem staan bodyguards met kogelvrije vesten van de dienst Koninklijke en Diplomatieke Beveiliging. En daarvoor staat een plein vol burgers die hun burgemeester een hart onder de riem komen steken. Een onverwachte en een korte speech van de burgemeester volgt. Hij is dankbaar voor de steun van de Haarlemse bevolking. En daarna wordt hij snel afgevoerd te midden van zijn beveiligers. Dat was een on-Hollands beeld. Dat was een beeld dat we in Nederland nog niet eerder hadden gezien. Een beeld waarvan we eigenlijk denken dat het meer bij andere landen en bij andere continenten hoort. En het is een schokkend besef dat doodsbedreigingen aan burgemeesters, die gewoon hun werk doen, het nieuwe normaal lijkt te worden. Een praatje met bewoners en op de fiets de stad of het dorp inspecteren, dat is niet meer vanzelfsprekend. En daarom is het risico levensgroot dat de burgemeester uit het straatbeeld verdwijnt en in een verlaten ivoren toren terechtkomt. En uit die ivoren toren waren nou juist alle bestuurders in Nederland aan het eind van de vorige eeuw uitgehaald. Dat beeld dat ik schetste, daarin vormt het jaar 2018 een dieptepunt. Want de burgemeester van Haarlem is niet de enige. Burgemeesters worden steeds vaker en steeds zwaarder bedreigd. In Noord-Holland heeft 2/3 van de burgemeesters ermee te maken. En in heel Nederland gaat het om een kwart. En dat betekent dat op onverwachte momenten hun levens, voor korte of voor langere duur, zomaar kunnen over worden genomen door veiligheidsteams, omdat daar goede gronden voor bestaan. Veiligheidsscans van de huizen waar burgemeesters in wonen zijn al heel normaal geworden. Want iedereen weet immers waar de burgemeester woont. In juni 2018 verscheen de monitor Agressie en geweld in het openbaar bestuur. En daaruit blijkt een verontrustende stijging van agressie en geweld tegen politieke ambtsdragers, bij gemeenten, bij provincies en zelfs bij waterschappen. Bestuurders, politici, maar ook de vrije pers, ze worden letterlijk bedreigd in hun functioneren. Ze worden allemaal bedreigd bij het uitoefenen van een rol, van hun rol, terwijl die rol zo wezenlijk is voor een gezond democratisch bestel. Voor bedreigde burgemeesters is het al zo gewoon geworden dat ze elkaar spreken in een lotgenotengroep, het netwerk Weerbaar Bestuur. Want achter iedere bedreigde burgemeester staat vaak een heel gezin dat in zijn vrijheid wordt beperkt voor korte of langere tijd. Denk maar eens aan de impact die dit heeft op kinderen, de ontwikkeling van hun eigen kleine biotoop. Hun wereld zal onbekommerd veilig moeten zijn. Wij hebben vandaag een aantal burgemeesters uitgenodigd die met bedreigingen te maken hebben. En ze zitten hier, een aantal van hen zitten hier ook op de eerste rij. Een aantal hebben ook gezegd, liever geen aandacht ervoor. En dat begrijpen we ook heel goed. Maar wij vonden het tijd worden om aan dit onderwerp aandacht te besteden, omdat we dit niet gewoon moeten gaan vinden. Ik noem ze allemaal stuk voor stuk even. Joyce Langenakker, burgemeester van Ouder-Amstel. Zij heeft meerdere keren aangifte gedaan vanwege beledigingen en bedreigingen. Frank van der Meijden, burgemeester van Laarbeek, is met de dood bedreigd. Zijn woning werd extra beveiligd. En Wil Hobbe, burgemeester van Voerendaal. Een man met een bivakmuts en een vuurwapen stond plotseling voor zijn auto. Hij ontsnapte door snel weg te rijden. Jan van Zanen, burgemeester van Utrecht, is met de dood bedreigd. Jan Boelhouder, burgemeester van Gilserijen, werd met de dood bedreigd door een wapenhandelaar. Marjolein van der Meer-Moor is burgemeester van Rukven. Haar auto werd voor haar eigen deur in brand gestoken. En vorige week kwam naar buiten dat Annemiek Jette, burgemeester van Vlaardingen, met de dood is bedreigd. Ja, u mag er best een beetje stil van zijn. Want het is een indrukwekkend rijtje. En natuurlijk is er ook Jos Wiene, burgemeester van Haarlem. Hij wordt zwaar bewaakt. Hij woont in een safehouse. Hij kan niet meer gewoon even een boodschap doen als de melk op is of zoiets. En zijn volwassen kinderen kunnen niet meer spontaan bij hem op bezoek komen. Jos Wiene is de verpersoonlijking van de ambtsdrager die in het openbaar bestuur wordt belaagd en bedreigd. En die onder steeds zwaardere omstandigheden zijn rol probeert te vervullen. En die daarvoor de hoogste prijs betaalt. De beperking van zijn vrijheid en die van zijn naasten. Voor de dreiging van een aanslag uit de criminele wereld weigert Wiene te wijken. Maar de dagelijkse contacten die een burgemeester normaal met burgers heeft, die kunnen niet meer op een gewone manier plaatsvinden. Een cordon van veiligheidsmensen beschermt hem permanent en volgt hem als zijn schaduw. Enkel en alleen omdat hij doet wat de samenleving van hem vraagt. Het aanpakken van zware criminaliteit. De gemoedelijk op straat keuvelende burgemeester is getransformeerd tot een zwaar bewaakte crimefighter. En de onderwereld, de georganiseerde criminaliteit, is een steeds manifestere tegenmacht geworden. Een tegenmacht die niet alleen burgemeesters en politici, maar ook de rechterlijke macht en de vrije pers onder druk zet en belaagt. Rondrijden in clubverband op brullende motoren is een provocatie geworden aan het adres van het bevoegd gezag. Het neerleggen van handgranaten in woningportieken of ingangen van openbare gelegenheden rukt op. Ondermijning door de onderwereld is aan de orde van de dag. En het is nou net die burgemeester die vaak de kop van Jut is, omdat hij met inzet van het bestuursrecht die op volle toeren draaiende criminaliteit hinderlijk voor de voeten loopt. Misschien denkt u inmiddels trouwens wel, wat doe ik hier vandaag? Want de Machiavelli-prijs, die kennen wij jaarlijks toe voor een opmerkelijke prestatie op het gebied van publieke communicatie. En over communicatie is het nog nauwelijks gegaan. En dat klopt ook. Want dit jaar is het anders. Dit jaar is de Machiavelli-prijs een aanklacht. Dit jaar heeft het bestuur van de stichting Machiavelli ervoor gekozen om de 30ste Machiavelli-prijs een aanklacht te laten zijn. Dit jaar gaat de prijs naar de bedreigde burgemeester. Omdat de bedreigde burgemeester een publiek instituut is dat niet meer in staat is publiek te communiceren vanwege geweldsdreiging. Deze burgemeesters vormen de open zenuw van onze rechtsstaat, omdat zij zwaar beperkt en geremd worden in hun publieke communicatie. Burgemeesters horen onbevreesd en onbevangen tussen hun burgers te kunnen staan. Burgemeesters horen op elke plek en op elk moment met hun burgers te kunnen communiceren. In alle vrijheid en in alle openheid. Bedreigingen staan dat in de weg. En daar mogen wij niet aan wennen. En dat mogen wij ook niet gewoon gaan vinden. En dat moeten en dat willen wij blijven aanklagen. En daarom vragen wij Jos Wiene en zijn bedreigde collega's de Machiavelli-prijs in ontvangst te nemen.
Ja, als je, is goed. Maar nadrukkelijk sta ik hier samen met collega's en wil ik ook graag een enkel woord van dank spreken, mede namens de collega's. En misschien is het eerste wat ik moet zeggen, en dat kunt u ook zien, de bedreigde burgemeester bestaat niet. Het zijn heel diverse burgemeesters met ook heel diverse soorten bedreigingen waar je soms mee te maken hebt. Dat kan variëren van boze burgers tot criminelen, tot social media, waar op de een of andere manier dreiging van uitgaat. En het heeft ook te maken met heel verschillende achtergronden. Maar het gemeenschappelijke is dat er momenten zijn waar je in je publieke functioneren wordt gehinderd door bedreiging, door geweld, door intimidatie. De burgemeesters staan ook niet op zichzelf. Terecht heeft de voorzitter van de jury gezegd, het gaat om publieke ambtsdragers. Er zijn ook wethouders, raadsleden, kamerleden, ik denk aan Geert Wilders, bewindslieden die er soms kort, soms lang mee te maken hebben. En dat is uitermate kwalijk en slecht. Ik wil trouwens ook 1 opmerking nog wel even maken, want wij zijn niet alleen als overheidspartijen die ermee te maken hebben. Er zijn ook buschauffeurs, er zijn ambulancemedewerkers, brandweerlieden, treinconducteurs. Noem maar op, die te maken hebben met mensen die dreigend en soms ook gewelddadig optreden. En dat is een maatschappelijk verschijnsel wat uitermate kwalijk is. Deze prijs voor publieke ambtsdragers, voor burgemeesters, bedreigde burgemeesters, dat ervaren wij als een steun in de rug. Als het zichtbaar maken van deze vorm van bedreiging is natuurlijk een onderdeel van dat bredere maatschappelijke palet waarin dreiging kennelijk gemakkelijker gebruikt wordt. Maar het is extra ernstig omdat het de overheid in haar taak om de rechtsstaat te handhaven regelrecht bedreigt. En dat is iets waar wij ons zorgen over maken. En het feit dat we deze prijs krijgen is een geweldige steun in de rug om vol te houden en om pal te staan voor de waarden waar het om gaat. Ook dank aan de ambassadeur voor zijn opmerkingen over die waarden en over het belang van de rechtsstaat, een open samenleving en democratie. Voordat u overigens nu denkt, de burgemeester is een soort bedreigde diersoort. Ik geef toe, er zijn er wel steeds minder. Maar het grootste deel van ons werk is toch vooral ontzettend mooi werk. Midden in de samenleving, communicerend met burgers, werkend met gemeenteraden, met colleges, in de samenleving volop bezig. De bedreiging is uitermate schadelijk en kwalijk, maar het is gelukkig voor ons niet de hoofdmoot waar wij in ons leven als burgemeester mee te maken hebben. Wij genieten van ons werk. En die bedreiging is een klein onderdeel, maar wel een bedreigend onderdeel. En zeker als je de voorbeelden hoort die we gehoord hebben, dan is het ook duidelijk van op het moment dat het je treft, is het ook uitermate ingrijpend. Dan nog even iets, dit is een communicatieprijs. Het is ook een beetje dus een sneuwe prijs, want er wordt tegen ons gezegd, normaal geven we maar mensen die hem verdienen. Maar nu geven we maar mensen die niet goed kunnen communiceren. Dus ja, nou ja, dat is een troostprijs. Dat begrijpen we. Blij met de steun. Maar het interessante is, wij doen natuurlijk wel ons best om toch te blijven communiceren. En om toch in die samenleving te blijven functioneren. Dat doe ik ook. Je zoekt de gelegenheden om wel bij burgers te zijn. Gisteravond hadden wij nog een avond waar ik was met een heleboel buurtgenoten die zich zorgen maken over in dit geval een kermis, maar goed. En daar heb je dan gewoon je contacten mee en je geniet des te meer van het feit dat daar waar het spontane minder makkelijk is, dat je georganiseerd wel degelijk de mensen opzoekt en in gesprek bent en in gesprek blijft. Dat is misschien toch belangrijk om te zeggen. Een tweede risico, behalve dat de spontane contacten minder geworden zijn, dat is dat je de pers zou kunnen gaan ontlopen. Dat had ik echt in het begin. Want ja, je werd bedreigd, maar je mocht er eigenlijk niks over zeggen. Je kon er ook niks over zeggen. Dus ik dacht, ja, ik loop maar eventjes om als ik een journalist zie. Want die vraagt meteen, hoe gaat het en wat is er aan de hand? Daar ben ik mee gestopt. Ik denk, burgemeesters die bedreigd worden, als het enigszins kan, is het beter om door te blijven werken dan om te stoppen. Dat hoor ik van alle collega's. Soms hebben ze dat gedaan, is het ze geadviseerd. En toch, je merkt, het is beter als je je werk kunt blijven doen. En contacten met de pers, Het is nu wel heel erg veel, moet ik zeggen, maar ik heb nog nooit zoveel kunnen communiceren als de afgelopen tijd. Mede dankzij jullie prachtige prijs. Dus zo hopeloos is het niet. Wij zullen op onze post staan. Wij zullen staan voor de waarden van onze rechtsstaat. Wij zullen niet wijken voor intimidatie en geweld. En wij zullen blijven communiceren. En persoonlijk wil ik zeggen van terecht wordt er ook gezegd van het zijn niet alleen die burgemeesters, maar daarachter zijn het ook families en gezinnen. En dat wil ik hier ook nog graag zeggen van het is inderdaad iets waar niet alleen die burgemeesters, maar ook anderen een prijs voor betalen. Dus laat ik hier zeggen, lieve Marianne, dank voor je steun. En dat geldt voor al die anderen die achter ons staan en die mee de prijs betalen voor het werk wat wij doen. Maar het is heel mooi dat dat gebeurt en het is ook goed om daar aandacht aan te geven. Ik wil ook dat is een persoonlijke opmerking, de mensen van de beveiliging, de politie en ook de dienst Koninklijke en Diplomatieke Beveiliging ontzettend hartelijk danken. Want het is lastig om je werk te doen onder deze omstandigheden, maar de ontzettend professionele en prettige wijze waarop die beveiliging plaatsvindt als het nodig is, die is zo waardevol. Ook daarvoor wil ik hartelijk danken voor een overheid die staat voor haar ambtsdragers als het nodig is. En dan de bevolking, de burgers. Er is gerefereerd aan die burgers in Haarlem die op het plein bij elkaar kwamen. Ik heb dat als buitengewoon indrukwekkend ervaren. Het was spontaan, het kwam van de burgers zelf. Het was een ongelooflijke bemoediging, steun in de rug. En die krijgen wij van zo ongelooflijk veel mensen. En dat doet heel erg goed. Daarom denk ik dat bij alle kwalijke dingen die er te zeggen zijn hierover, dat het één ding duidelijk maakt. Die kloof tussen burgers en bestuur, die is er op dit punt gelukkig niet. De bevolking zegt net als de jury van de Machiavelli-prijs, blijf van die ambtsdragers af die hun werk doen. Wij willen dit niet, wij staan achter jullie, wij staan voor diezelfde waarden. En ook dat is een geweldige steun in de rug. De bedreigde burgemeester, die doet zijn werk. De bedreigde burgemeester blijft communiceren. En dank aan iedereen die ons daarbij helpt.
Dank voor deze indrukwekkende woorden, ook veel dank. Er resten mij nog een paar dingen. Dat is om te beginnen om u uit te nodigen om zometeen met ons in de provinciezaal hiernaast, als u daar zin in heeft, een drankje en een hapje te nuttigen. En dan ook nog een paar huishoudelijke mededelingen. U heeft gezien dat ook hier vandaag, gegeven onze prijswinnaars, nogal wat beveiliging is. Dus ik zou u willen vragen om even te blijven zitten totdat ik met burgemeester Wiene samen de zaal heb verlaten. Dat betekent niet dat burgemeester Wiene voor u niet aanspreekbaar is tijdens de borrel. Maar ik vraag u even ook de maatregelen die u vanzelf ziet en die daarbij horen een klein beetje in acht te nemen. Rest mij nog, want ook deze bijeenkomst is zeker niet vanzelf tot stand gekomen. Rest mij nog mijn dank uit te spreken aan alle mensen van Perscentrum Nieuwsport, die ongelooflijk veel werk hebben verzet om dit vandaag ook weer mogelijk te maken. En veel dank gaat ook uit, want zonder hen was het niet mogelijk geweest om hier vandaag bij elkaar te komen, aan de politie Haaglanden, de dienst Koninklijke en Diplomatieke Beveiliging en de Koninklijke Marechaussee. Veel dank tenslotte aan u allen voor uw komst vandaag. Dank u wel.
U heeft dat, hè? U heeft ons dan.